The great hall of the Galactic Council buzzed with voices from 1,000 different worlds. Chancellor Morthak stood at the center platform, his forearms spread wide as he addressed the assembly. His red eyes gleamed with satisfaction as he looked down at the human ambassador sitting in the lower section. Li Hyan sat perfectly still in his chair. His dark suit looked simple compared to the elaborate robes and armor worn by other ambassadors. The human section was small, just 5 seats in a hall that could hold thousands. This did not bother Li Hyan. He had learned long ago that humans did not need large numbers to make their presence known. Chancellor Morthak's voice boomed across the hall. Fellow members of the council, we have tried diplomacy with the humans for 50 years. We have tried trade sanctions for 20 years. We have tried military action for 10 years. Nothing has stopped their expansion into our territory. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the assembly. The Zephyrian delegate nodded his scaled head. The Kovari representative clicked her mandibles in approval. Even the peaceful Altarians seemed to agree with the Chancellor's words. The humans continue to build colonies on worlds we have claimed. Morthak continued. They ignore our warnings. They defeat our fleets. They act as if they own the galaxy. But today we have discovered their weakness. Li Hyan raised an eyebrow but said nothing. Around him, the other ambassadors leaned forward with interest. The Chancellor had promised something special for today's session. Morthak activated a holographic display. Images of human colonies appeared in the air above the assembly. The pictures showed men and women working together, building cities, raising families. To the aliens, these seemed like ordinary settlement images. Look closely at these images, the Chancellor said. Notice how the humans organize themselves. The males do the fighting, the dangerous work, the military service. The females stay behind, protected and safe. They are clearly the weaker gender, the ones the human males value most. More murmurs spread through the hall. Li Hyan's expression did not change, but his fingers tapped once against his knee. It was a small movement that no alien eye caught. Our intelligence reports confirm this, Morthak went on. Human females are physically smaller, emotionally, unstable and completely dependent on their males for protection. They are the perfect leverage point. The Chancellor's aide, a thin creature with 6 legs, scuttled forward with a data pad. Morthak read from it with obvious pleasure. Today, the Galactic Council issues this ultimatum to humanity. You will surrender 100 of your females to us as insurance against further expansion. These females will be held on Council Station Alpha as guarantees of human cooperation. If humans continue their illegal colonization, these females will face the consequences. The hall erupted in cheers and applause. Delegates from dozens of species showed their approval. They had been frustrated by human expansion for decades. Finally, someone had found a way to control the aggressive newcomers. Li Hyan stood slowly. His movement was calm and deliberate. The noise in the hall gradually died down as delegates noticed the human ambassador rising to speak. Chancellor Morthak, Li Hyan said. His voice was quiet but somehow carried clearly through the vast hall. I must respectfully decline your ultimatum. Morthak's red eyes narrowed. You decline? Do you not understand the situation, human? We are offering you a way to avoid total war. Accept our terms or face the complete destruction of your species. I understand perfectly, Li Hyan replied, and my answer remains the same. No. The Chancellor's forearms trembled with rage. Then you have chosen war, but perhaps you need a demonstration of our resolve. Another holographic display activated. This time it showed the interior of a council prison ship. 3 human women sat in separate cells, unaware they were being watched by the entire Galactic Assembly. Meet your fellow humans, Morthak said with a cruel smile. Park Sora, captured during our raid on the Kepler Colony Medical Station. Kim Nari, taken prisoner when we attacked the terraforming platform at Wolf 359. And Choi Mina, seized from the diplomatic transport she was traveling on last month. Li Hyan looked at the images of the 3 women. Park Sora was young, maybe 25, with short black hair and tired eyes. She wore the torn remains of a medical uniform. Kim Nari appeared older, perhaps 30, her engineer's coveralls dirty. and stained. Choi Mina sat with perfect posture despite her diplomatic robes being wrinkled and damaged. "These three will be executed publicly in 72 hours, the Chancellor announced. "Their deaths will be broadcast across the galaxy as a warning to humanity. After that, we will capture more of your precious females and execute them one by one until you surrender." The alien delegates cheered again. They believed they had found the perfect weapon against humanity. Hit them where they were weakest, where they cared most. Lee Hyon studied the images for a long moment. Then he looked directly at Chancellor Morthak. "You are making a mistake." "The only mistake," Morthak snarled, "was your species' arrogance. In 3 days you will watch your females die, and you will learn the price of defying the Galactic Council." "Chancellor," Lee Hyon said softly, "you clearly do not understand humans as well as you think you do." "We understand you perfectly," the Chancellor shot back. "You are a warrior species that protects its weak. Remove the weak, and the warriors become desperate and careless." Lee Hyon gathered his papers and prepared to leave. As he walked toward the exit, every eye in the hall followed him. His footsteps echoed in the sudden silence at the doorway. He paused and turned back. "Chancellor Morthak, I want you to remember this moment. Remember that I tried to warn you." "Warn me about what, human?" Lee Hyon's expression remained calm, but something in his eyes made several nearby delegates step back unconsciously. "You assume human females are our weakness," he said. "You assume they need our protection. You assume wrong." With that, the human ambassador left the hall. The great doors closed behind him with a heavy thud that seemed to echo longer than it should have. Chancellor Morthak turned back to the assembly. "Let this be a lesson to any species that defies the Council. The humans will learn their place, or they will learn the cost of resistance." The cheering resumed, but some of the older, more experienced delegates noticed something troubling. In all their years of dealing with humans, they had never seen one retreat so quietly. Humans usually argued, protested, made threats. They did not simply walk away, but the moment passed, and the Council moved on to other business. The execution was scheduled. The broadcasts were prepared. In 72 hours, the galaxy would watch 3 human women die, and humanity would finally be brought to heel. What none of them understood was that Lee Hyon was not retreating at all. He was simply returning to Earth to deliver a message that would change everything. The first day after the ultimatum passed in complete silence from human space. No diplomatic protests came through the Council's communication channels. No threats were transmitted from Earth. No human ships moved toward Council territory. The galaxy's most aggressive species had simply gone quiet. Chancellor Morthak paced in his private chambers, his forearms gesturing as he spoke to his aide. "Have we received any response from the humans?" The 6-legged creature checked its datapad nervously. "Nothing, Chancellor. Complete communication silence from all human colonies and Earth itself." "Perfect," Morthak said with satisfaction. "They are already broken. The psychological impact of threatening their females has worked exactly as planned." On the second day, the silence deepened. Human trade ships that had been traveling established routes simply vanished. Not destroyed, not captured, just gone. Ports that had been busy with human merchants suddenly found themselves empty. The galaxy's supply chains, which had grown dependent on human goods and services, began to feel the absence. At Council Station Beta, Commander Vector received a troubling report from his logistics officer. "Sir, the humans have canceled all shipping contracts. Our supply deliveries from the Centauri colonies have stopped completely." "So?" Vector replied. "We do not need human goods. We survived for millions of years before they arrived." "Yes, sir, but they were supplying 60% of our medical equipment and 40% of our food imports. Without them, we will need to find new suppliers quickly." Similar reports came in from across Council space. Human businesses had quietly closed their doors. Human workers had disappeared from mixed species operations. Human diplomatic staff had evacuated from every Council station and embassy. The third day brought the executions. Park Sora, Kim Nari, and Choi Mina were brought to the execution platform on Council Station Alpha. The ceremony was broadcast live across the galaxy as planned. Billions of beings watched as the three human women were led to the Hanging Posts Park. Sora walked steadily, her medical training keeping her calm even in the face of death. Kim Nari's engineer mind seemed to be analyzing the construction of the execution platform even as the noose was placed around her neck. Choi Mina maintained her diplomatic composure, refusing to give the council the satisfaction of seeing her fear. The executions proceeded exactly as the council had planned. The three women died quickly and quietly. No dramatic last words, no pleas for mercy, no breakdown of human dignity. They faced death with a courage that made some of the alien observers uncomfortable. Chancellor Morthak addressed the galaxy after the executions. Let this be a warning to humanity and any other species that defies the Galactic Council. This is the price of resistance. We will execute more human females every week until humanity surrenders. The broadcast ended. The galaxy waited for humanity's response. The silence continued. Meanwhile, far from the political drama, something unprecedented was happening in human space. Admiral Kang Daeho stood before the emergency session of the Colonial Defense Command. Every human military leader from Earth to the outer colonies attended either in person or by secure hologram. The Council has made their intentions clear, Admiral Kang said. They believe they can break us by targeting our women. They believe human females are weak and helpless. They are about to learn how wrong they are. Captain Lim Jae-won of the Phoenix Squadron raised his hand. Admiral, what are our orders regarding civilian protection? Should we increase security around female populations? Admiral Kang's expression was grim. Captain, you misunderstand the situation. We are not protecting our women from the Council. We are protecting the Council from our women. Confused murmurs spread through the assembly. General Park Dong-sik, a veteran of the Proxima War, spoke up. Sir, I do not understand. How can civilian women pose a threat to a military force? Dr. Yoon Ji-won stepped forward from the science section. She was Earth's leading expert on human biology and psychology. Her research had been classified for decades, known only to the highest levels of government and military command. Gentlemen, Dr. Yoon began, you are operating under the same misconception as the Galactic Council. You assume human males are the warriors and human females are the protected. This is incorrect. She activated a holographic display showing brain scans and biological data. Human sexual dimorphism evolved over millions of years. Males developed for direct confrontation, yes, but females developed for something far more dangerous: protection of offspring and community. Admiral Kang nodded gravely. Dr. Yoon, please explain to the assembly what Protocol Omega involves. Dr. Yoon's expression became serious. Protocol Omega is humanity's final contingency plan. It was developed after we realized that any advanced alien species might target human women based on incorrect assumptions about our biology. The display changed to show hormone levels and neural activity patterns. When human females perceive a direct threat to their families or communities, they undergo physiological changes that make them exponentially more effective in combat than human males. Higher pain tolerance, enhanced pattern recognition, superior coordination under stress, and most importantly, complete emotional detachment from consequences. Captain Lim Jae-won looked skeptical. Doctor, with respect, physical biology only goes so far in modern warfare. Technology and training matter more than biology. You are correct, Captain, Dr. Yoon replied, which is why every human female in the colonies and on Earth has been receiving advanced military training since childhood, disguised as educational and recreational activities. The assembly fell silent. Admiral Kang continued the explanation. Every girl who learned to cook learned chemistry and explosive compounds. Every woman who studied childcare learned field medicine and trauma treatment. Every female who took dance lessons learned movement, coordination, and spatial awareness that translates directly to combat effectiveness. The Council thinks they are targeting helpless civilians, Dr. Yoon added. They have actually declared war on a hidden military force of over 2 billion trained female operatives. General Park Dong-sik asked the question everyone was thinking. What exactly is Protocol Omega? Admiral Kang looked around the room at his officers. Protocol Omega authorizes every human female to abandon all other responsibilities and focus exclusively on eliminating the threat to their families. No rules of engagement. No political considerations, no mercy. The executions they just broadcast, Dr. Yoon said quietly, were not of helpless prisoners. They were of someone's daughter, someone's sister, someone's mother. Every human woman who watched those executions now considers herself and her family under direct attack. Captain Lim Jae-won began to understand. You mean we are not launching a military response to save our women? No, Captain, Admiral Kang confirmed. We are launching a military response to save the Galactic Council from our women. Because right now, every human female with access to a ship, weapon, or explosive device is preparing to hunt down everyone responsible for those executions. The room fell completely silent as the implications sank in. Outside the conference room, across human space, the preparations had already begun. While the galaxy celebrated humanity's apparent defeat, human women were quietly organizing the most devastating military response in galactic history, and the Yao Council, still congratulating themselves on their psychological victory, had no idea what was coming for them. 5 days had passed since the executions, and Chancellor Morthak felt more confident than ever. The human silence continued, which he interpreted as complete surrender. He had called for another execution ceremony, this one larger and more elaborate. 7 more human women had been captured, and their public deaths would surely end any remaining human resistance. The great hall of the Galactic Council buzzed with excitement. Representatives from across the galaxy had gathered to witness what they believed would be humanity's final humiliation. The execution platform had been expanded and decorated with banners celebrating the Council's victory. Chancellor Morthak stood at his podium, prepared to address the assembly before the ceremony began. The 7 human prisoners waited in holding cells below the platform. Everything was ready for the grand spectacle. Then the unexpected happened. A single human ship approached Council Station Alpha, broadcasting diplomatic immunity codes. The vessel was small, clearly unarmed, and carried only one passenger, Chancellor. His aide reported nervously. We have a human request for emergency. Assembly address under Galactic Law Provision 77 Alpha. Morthak's red eyes narrowed. What human would dare come here now? Is it their ambassador, Lee Hyun? No, sir. The passenger identifies herself as Dr. Yoon Ji-won, a human scientist. She claims to have critical information regarding the execution of human prisoners, the Chancellor considered this. Under galactic law, any species facing extinction-level actions could request one final address to the Council. It was an ancient tradition, rarely used, but legally binding. Refusing would damage the Council's reputation among member species who still cared about proper procedures. Very well, Morthak decided. Let her speak. Her final words will make our victory even more complete. Dr. Yoon Ji-won entered the great hall accompanied by 2 council guards. She was a woman in her 40s with graying hair pulled back in a simple style. She wore a plain blue jumpsuit and carried only a small data pad. To the assembled aliens, she looked exactly like what they expected from a human female, small, quiet, and completely harmless. The guards escorted her to the central platform. Thousands of alien eyes watched as she stood calmly in the same spot where Chancellor Morthak had announced humanity's doom just days earlier. Dr. Yoon Ji-won, the Chancellor announced, you have requested to address this assembly under Provision 77 Alpha. You may speak, but know that nothing you say will change the fate of your species. Dr. Yoon stepped forward to the speaking podium. Her voice was clear and steady as she began. Honorable members of the Galactic Council, I come before you not to beg for mercy, but to correct a fundamental misunderstanding. Laughter rippled through the assembly. The idea that humans could correct the Council about anything seemed absurd. You believe you understand human biology and social structure, Dr. Yoon continued. You believe human females are the weak point in our species. You believe targeting us will break human resistance. You are wrong about everything. Chancellor Morthak leaned forward with amusement. Dr. Yoon, we have studied your species for 50 years. Our intelligence reports are comprehensive and accurate. Your reports, Dr. Yoon replied calmly, are based on observations of human behavior in peaceful times. You have never seen what happens when human females perceive a direct threat to their families and communities. She activated her data pad, and holographic displays appeared above the assembly. The images showed brain scans, hormone level charts, and reaction time measurements. Human sexual dimorphism did not evolve the way you think, Dr. Yoon explained. Human males evolved for hunting and direct confrontation, yes, but human females evolved for something far more dangerous, protecting offspring and community from existential threats. The laughter in the hall began to fade as delegates studied the scientific data. The brain scans showed significant differences between human male and female neural activity under stress conditions. When human females perceive a threat to their families, their brain chemistry changes dramatically, Dr. Yoon continued. Pain tolerance increases by 400%. Pattern recognition and tactical thinking improve by 300%. Most importantly, emotional responses that might interfere with effective action are completely suppressed, Chancellor Morthak stood up angrily. Dr. Yoon, these are desperate lies designed to make us fear your pathetic species. I am not here to make you fear us, Dr. Yoon said quietly. I am here to warn you that you have already made a fatal mistake. She changed the holographic display to show physiological comparisons. Human females have faster reflexes than males, better coordination under stress, superior memory recall in crisis situations, and enhanced ability to work in coordinated groups without communication. The Altarian. Delegate raised a tentacle nervously. Dr. Yoon, are you claiming human females are superior warriors to human males? Not superior, Dr. Yoon corrected. Different. Human males are excellent soldiers. Human females are excellent exterminators. An uncomfortable silence fell over the assembly. The scientific data was compelling, but the implications were disturbing. Furthermore, Dr. Yoon continued, your intelligence reports missed a crucial fact about human society. Every human female receives extensive military training from childhood, integrated into normal education and social activities. Chancellor Morthak slammed his 4 fists on his podium. Impossible. Our observations show human females in domestic and caring roles. Correct, Dr. Yoon agreed. A human woman caring for children learns field medicine, resource management, logistics coordination, and crisis response. A human woman managing a household learns chemistry, engineering, communications, and tactical planning. What you interpreted as peaceful domestic behavior was actually continuous military preparation. The assembly erupted in confused voices. If this was true, then their entire understanding of human society was wrong. Dr. Yoon raised her voice to be heard over the noise. Every woman you have executed was someone's daughter, sister, or mother. Every human female who witnessed those executions now considers her family under direct attack. So what? Morthak shouted. They are still just civilians, no matter their training. Chancellor, Dr. Yoon said with deadly calm, you have just declared war on 2 billion trained female operatives who no longer care about laws, politics, or their own survival. They care only about eliminating the threat to their families. The holographic display changed one final time, showing fleet movement patterns from human space. Thousands of ships were moving toward Council territory, but these were not military vessels. They were marked as civilian transports, colony ships, and merchant vessels. I came here to give you one final chance, Dr. Yoon said. Release all human prisoners, surrender the individuals responsible for the executions, and submit to human justice. Do this, and you might survive what is coming. Chancellor Morthak's rage overcame his reason. Never. You think your civilian ships can threaten the Council fleet? Guards, execute this female immediately and proceed with the ceremony. Dr. Yoon did not resist as the guards moved toward her. She simply looked directly at Chancellor Morthak and spoke her final words to the assembly. Remember that I tried to warn you. Remember that when your ships burn and your stations fall, a human woman gave you the choice to surrender with honor. The guards reached her, but before they could act, alarms began blaring throughout the station. The proximity sensors had detected the approaching human fleet on the main display screen. A transmission came through from the lead ship. A human woman's face appeared, calm and determined. "This is Admiral Song Mirai of the Matriarch Fleet. Council Station Alpha, you have 60 seconds to release all human prisoners and prepare to surrender. After that, we will take them by force." Chancellor Morthak stared at the screen in shock. The woman looked like any other human female, but her eyes held something that made experienced warriors across the assembly step back unconsciously. 60 seconds began to count down, and the council realized too late that they had awakened something they did not understand and could not control. The 60 seconds passed in deadly silence. Chancellor Morthak stood frozen at his podium, staring at the main display screen where Admiral Song Mirai waited patiently for his response. Around the Great Hall, alien delegates whispered nervously, among themselves unsure what to expect from the approaching human fleet. Chancellor, his aide, whispered urgently, "The defense fleet is requesting orders. Should they engage the human vessels?" Morthak's forearms trembled as he considered his options. The approaching ships were marked as civilian vessels according to their transponder codes. Attacking civilian ships would violate a dozen galactics treaties and turn public opinion against the Council. But if he did nothing, he would appear weak before the entire galaxy. "Scan those ships," he ordered. "I want to know their true capabilities." The tactical officer's voice crackled over the communication system. "Chancellor, the scans are confusing. The ships appear to be legitimate civilian vessels, but their engine signatures are military grade. We are detecting unusual modifications throughout their structures." On the main screen, Admiral Song Mirai checked something off screen, then looked directly at the camera. "Your 60 seconds are over, Chancellor. Since you have chosen not to surrender, we will now demonstrate why that was a mistake." The display changed to show the external view of space around Council Station Alpha. The human fleet spread out in a perfect formation that should have been impossible for civilian ships to achieve. There were hundreds of vessels, from small personal transports to massive colony ships. Commander Vectar's voice came through the communication system from the Council Defense Fleet. "All ships, this is Vectar. The human vessels are not responding to our hails. They appear to be positioning for some kind of coordinated action." What happened next defied everything the Council knew about human capabilities. The civilian ships began opening hidden weapon ports and launching fighter squadrons that had been concealed in their cargo bays. In less than 5 minutes, the harmless-looking merchant fleet had transformed into a military force that rivaled the Council's finest battle groups. "Impossible," Morthak breathed. "Civilian ships cannot carry that level of armament." Dr. Yoon Ji-won, still standing calmly between her guards, spoke quietly. "Chancellor, you are seeing the result of 50 years of human preparation. Every colony ship that left Earth carried hidden military capabilities. Every merchant vessel was designed with concealed weapons systems. Every transport that appeared to carry families and supplies actually carried trained operatives and military equipment." The Council's defense fleet moved to intercept the human vessels, confident that their superior numbers and advanced technology would quickly end the confrontation. The first engagement began when a Council battlecruiser fired on what appeared to be a small human cargo ship. The cargo ship's hull plating fell away to reveal advanced defensive shields and return fire that punched through the battlecruiser's armor like paper. Within moments, the Council ship was drifting powerless while the human vessel continued its approach without slowing. "Commander Vectar," came a transmission from the human ship that had just disabled the battlecruiser. "This is Captain Park, Jisoo of the civilian transport New Seoul. You just fired on a ship carrying 600 mothers, teachers, and nurses. They are not pleased with your behavior." Similar scenes played out across the battle space. Ships identified as peaceful transports revealed themselves to be carriers launching swarms of fighters piloted with precision that the Council's best pilots could not match. Colony vessels that should have been slow and unwieldy moved with the coordination of military formations. The most unsettling aspect was not the hidden weapons or the tactical superiority. It was the complete calm displayed by the human women. Their communications were polite, professional, and absolutely terrifying in their lack of emotion. Council Defense Fleet, Admiral Song Mire's voice cut through the chaos. You are fighting mothers whose children have been threatened, sisters whose siblings have been murdered, and daughters whose family honor has been attacked. You cannot win this battle because we do not care if we die, only that you are stopped. Commander Vectar's flagship, the pride of the Council fleet, found itself surrounded by 6 human vessels that had appeared to be simple passenger transports. His weapons officer reported that their targeting systems were being jammed by signals coming from all directions simultaneously. How are they coordinating like this? Vectar demanded. No military force achieves this level of coordination without constant communication. His intelligence officer provided the answer that chilled everyone on the bridge. Sir, they are not using communication systems for coordination. They are using the same instinctive group coordination that human females evolved for protecting their children. The battle continued, but it was not really a battle at all. It was an execution carried out with surgical precision. The human women had studied every council ship design, every weapon system, every tactical doctrine. They knew exactly where to strike for maximum effect with minimum risk to their own forces. Within 2 hours, the entire Council defense fleet was either destroyed or disabled. Not a single human ship had been lost, and casualties among the human forces were virtually zero. The technological superiority that the Council had relied on for millennia meant nothing against opponents who fought with perfect coordination and complete commitment. Admiral Song Mire's image reappeared on the main display in the Great Hall. Behind her, the bridge of her flagship buzzed with quiet activity as human women efficiently managed the aftermath of the battle. Chancellor Morthak, she said, your fleet has been neutralized. Your station is now surrounded. I am prepared to accept your surrender and begin negotiations for the release of all human prisoners. Morthak stared at the screen in shock. His entire worldview had been shattered in the space of 2 hours. The weak, helpless creatures he had planned to use as leverage had just destroyed the most powerful military force in the galaxy. You cannot do this, he stammered. There are laws, treaties, protocols. You are civilians attacking a legitimate government. We were civilians, Admiral Song Mire corrected him. You made us something else when you murdered our sisters. Dr. Yoon Jiwan stepped forward, her guards now unsure whether they should continue restraining someone whose species had just conquered their fleet. Chancellor, you have one more choice to make. Surrender now and face trial under galactic law, or continue resisting and face the judgment of 2 billion human women who no longer care about laws. The Great Hall fell completely silent. Every alien delegate understood that they were witnessing the end of the galactic order they had known. The species they had underestimated as weak and harmless had just demonstrated that they were the apex predators of the galaxy, and somewhere, in the depths of the station, 7 human women sat in their cells, unaware that their sisters had just changed the course of galactic history to ensure their rescue. 3 months after the battle at Council Station Alpha, the galaxy looked very different. The Great Hall that had once hosted the Galactic Council's arrogant declarations now served as a courthouse for the most significant war crimes trial in galactic history. Judge Lee Yunbi sat behind an imposing bench made from materials donated by a dozen different worlds. She was a small woman with graying hair and wire-rimmed glasses, but her presence commanded respect from every being in the hall. The trial was being broadcast live across the galaxy, and billions watched as human justice unfolded. In the defendants' section sat Chancellor Morthak and 47 other council members who had voted for the execution protocol. They were held in energy restraints that prevented movement, but allowed them to speak in their own defense. The irony was not lost on anyone that they were experiencing the same helplessness their human victims had felt. The court recognizes the prosecutor. Judge Lee announced. Admiral Song Mire stood at the prosecutor's table. She had traded her military uniform for a simple black suit, but her bearing remained that of a woman who had conquered a galactic fleet. Next to her sat Dr. Yoon Jiwan, now serving as the chief expert witness on human biology and law. Your Honor, Admiral Song began, the prosecution will demonstrate that the defendants committed genocide, war crimes, and crimes against sapient dignity under both galactic law and the emerging Human Protectorate legal code. The trial proceeded with methodical precision. Evidence was presented showing how the Council had deliberately targeted non-combatant civilians based on false assumptions about human biology. Communication intercepts proved that the executions were designed to cause maximum psychological damage to the human population. Dr. Yoon Ji-won took the witness stand to explain the scientific evidence. The defendants believed they were targeting the weak members of our species, she testified. In fact, they were targeting the individuals most likely to trigger an extreme protective response from the entire human female population. The defense attorney, a nervous Altarian lawyer assigned by Galactic law, attempted to argue that the Council had acted within their legal rights as a sovereign government. The defendants believed they were defending their territory against human expansion, he claimed. Judge Lee's response was swift and sharp. Counselor, the murder of non-combatant civilians is a war crime under any legal system recognized by this court. The defendants' motivations do not justify their actions. The most powerful testimony came from the survivors. Oh Sulgi, An Yujin, and Bai Sunmi had been rescued when human forces took control of Council Station Alpha. They described their treatment in captivity and the psychological torture of knowing they were to be executed as examples to their species. Oh Selgi, the former colony teacher, spoke with quiet dignity. They told us that our deaths would break the spirit of humanity. They believed that human men would surrender rather than see human women die. They did not understand that human women do not wait for rescue. We rescue ourselves and we rescue each other. The trial continued for 6 weeks. Evidence was presented showing that the Council had planned even more extensive executions, with quotas for capturing human females from every colony. Internal communications revealed their complete misunderstanding of human social structures and biological capabilities. When the time came for sentencing, Judge Lee addressed the packed courtroom with words that would be remembered across the galaxy. The defendants stand convicted of genocide, war crimes, and crimes against sapient dignity. However, this court recognizes that their actions stemmed from a fundamental misunderstanding of human nature, rather than pure malice. She paused, looking directly at Chancellor Morthak. The defendants believed they were exploiting human weakness. Instead, they awakened human strength. They believed they could control humanity through fear. Instead, they learned what it means to face a species that fights not for conquest but for family. The sentences were death by hanging, carried out exactly as the Council had executed the human women. But there was one crucial difference. Captain Lim Jae-won of the Phoenix Squadron, who supervised the executions, ensured that each defendant was treated with dignity and respect, even in death. "We are not executioners seeking revenge," Captain Lim announced as the sentences were carried out. "We are protectors ensuring justice. The condemned will die with honor, which is more than they granted our sisters." The executions were broadcast across the galaxy, just as the Council had broadcast the deaths of human women. But where the Council had sought to instill fear, the humans demonstrated measured justice. After the trial, the real work began. Ambassador Lee Hyon addressed the reformed Galactic Assembly, now meeting under human oversight. "The Galactic Council made one fundamental error," he said. "They assumed that strength meant the ability to conquer and control. Humans define strength as the ability to protect and preserve." The new galactic order that emerged was unlike anything the galaxy had seen. The human protectorate did not seek to rule other species. Instead, they established a system where any species could request protection from aggression or exploitation. Admiral Song Mirai became the first Protector General, commanding a fleet of vessels that were no longer disguised as civilian ships. The hidden weapons had been removed, but the ships remained crewed primarily by human women who had volunteered for permanent military service. "We learned something important during the crisis," Admiral Song explained to a gathering of planetary leaders. "Human females are not the protected class in our society. We are the protectors. The Council's mistake was thinking that mothers, sisters, and daughters would be helpless. In fact, there is nothing more dangerous in the universe than a human woman whose family has been threatened." The galaxy adapted to this new reality. Species that had once seen humans as aggressive expansionists now understood that human colonization was actually the establishment of protective zones. Human settlements became refuges where smaller species could live without fear of exploitation by larger, more powerful neighbors. Dr. Yoon Ji-won established the Institute for Interspecies Understanding, dedicated to preventing future conflicts based on biological misconceptions. Her research became required reading for all diplomatic corps across the galaxy. The greatest tragedy of the Council crisis, she wrote in her final report, was not the loss of life, but the waste of potential cooperation. Had the Council sought to understand humanity rather than control us, they might have learned that our greatest strength is not our willingness to fight, but our commitment to protecting those who cannot protect themselves. Years later, when young, humans learned about the Council crisis in their history classes. They learned it not as a story of human victory, but as a lesson about the consequences of misunderstanding. The galaxy had learned that humanity's greatest weapon was not their technology or their military prowess. It was their mothers, daughters, and sisters, who would cross the stars themselves to ensure that no one who threatened their families would ever threaten anyone else's family again. And in quiet moments, when human women gathered together across the galaxy, they remembered Park Sora, Kim Nari, and Choi Mina not as victims but as the sisters whose sacrifice had taught the universe that some things are worth any price to protect.